Your Denver Broncos were just hit with a ton of fantastic NFL draft news as we are looking more and more likely that an absolute stud is going to fall to us at 20 because of the needs of teams before us. We have a couple Pro Bowl running backs who are on the trade market. Might the Denver Broncos meet their running back need without even diving into the draft for it? We got a ton to break down in this video. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Denver Broncos fan named Ben, typically in my Broncos man cave, but I'm on the road. It helps me and the YouTube algorithm out a ton. If you like the Denver Broncos, if you would like and subscribe. So as we take a look at this draft coming up here, we know the biggest dream of all of us is that Ashton Jeanty somehow falls to us at 20. And that seemed like a pipe dream quite a while ago, but if you take a look at just the things that have been happening across the NFL and teams in front of us and the selections that they are going to need to make, it's just becoming more and more likely. There are a couple prominent mock drafters that have Ashton Jeanty fall to us, and I think that's actually somewhat of a realistic thing that might happen. So if we take a look at some of the news that we've just heard over the past couple days, the first thing that is just wild here is that Jalen Milroe, who is a quarterback out of Alabama, who a lot of people had as like, he's a day 2 guy, he's a day 3 guy. He ran an absolutely ridiculous 40 time, and he was actually given the invite to go to Green Bay, Wisconsin, the site of the actual NFL draft, which is an indication that Jalen Milroe will be a first-round quarterback. And we know how runs on first-round quarterbacks happen. And so early on we heard like, oh, Shador is going to fall out of the top 10. That's not going to happen. So you could easily now have 4 quarterbacks hop in and be taken in the first 20, which means that the skill position that we need of running back has a more and more realistic opportunity of that happening. So you see Chase Daniel be like, yep, Jalen Milroe is a first-round quarterback. If we take a look here at what teams in front of us need quarterbacks, the Saints need a quarterback. The Miami Dolphins, do they trust that Tua is the answer? Do the Colts need a quarterback? The Cardinals are good, but the Seahawks, do they trust what they have there? So that is fantastic news that he was invited there. On top of that, we're hearing another quarterback, Dan Orlovsky, say that Jackson Dart is going to go much higher than anyone else expects to. And we've heard people say that he's a top 10. So might we have 4 quarterbacks in the top 12? Like last year we saw Bo Nix was the 6th quarterback by pick number 12. So do not be surprised when you see quarterbacks go really early, which means Broncos don't need a quarterback. We got Bo Nix, and so we're in fantastic shape there. Next piece of fantastic news, another team in front of us lost their starting left tackle. Now, we know that the Miami Dolphins need to do everything in their power to keep Tua healthy. They need a talented offensive line, and they just lost their Pro Bowl offensive lineman who is retiring. And so now as you look at another team in front of us who probably was not looking at offensive line going into the draft, absolutely needs to now. The Broncos offensive line is sure. We have the top paid offensive line in all of football, and so fantastic. Anytime a team has a need that we don't and they're drafting before us, so I love the fact that they need that. Now, staying in division here, this is great news on a number of fronts. First, I'm thrilled that we don't have to play him anymore. The Denver Broncos will no longer have to play Jack. And this Jack Jones was a player for the Raiders who they were incredibly high on. He was a really good friend of their former coach, Antonio Pierce. And when he had his head right, was just one of the most game-wrecking cornerbacks in the league. When I did my crossover episode with Graphic Raider, he talked about like this is one of his favorite players in all of the Raiders organization. So they tried to shop him around and trade him because he didn't fit this new coaching scheme that they have going there with Pete Carrol. His talent is undeniable, but he is now gone, which means that the Raiders at 6 desperately are in need of a cornerback. And so if they could get a corner or a running back, what are they going to do? And you just see lots of people inside of the Raiders organization be upset about this move and just know that, man, we came into this offseason having the second most cap space out of any team in the NFL other than the New England Patriots. And they had high hopes about totally transforming this franchise and getting back to the playoffs. And all that they have done is got Geno Smith and lost talent. So this is great because we don't have to play him. And could they now skip on Ashton Jeanty because they have so many holes on that Raiders team? Might they go corner at 6? That would be a much smarter move to get a corner rather than make a run at a running back. So that's great. Now, the Broncos, if we get Ashton Jeanty and he falls to us at 20, I say you run as fast as you can up to the podium with his name. But if not, there are a couple Pro Bowl running backs whose name are up on the trading block whose teams have made it known that, hey, we're not necessarily riding with this team. So we know Moogie, who used to be with the Denver Broncos, is now doing a running back by committee situation there with the New York Jets. And to me, depending on what the asking price is for a Breece Hall, if you could get him for a second or a third round draft pick, that is a very, very enticing opportunity for me. I think we've seen some absolute flashes of him being a difference maker. I had him in a dynasty fantasy league, and before his knee injury, he looked like an absolute game wrecker, and I think he brings an element to the running game that we haven't had in a long time. Now, obviously, he hasn't been the same since his knee injury. Is it going to be a lot like what we had with Javonte Williams, where when he was right, he was a total game wrecker, but he hasn't ever been the same, and you just trust the Denver Broncos training staff to make that decision? They evaluated Javonte Williams and said, well, we don't think he'll ever get back up to that level, but certainly there are running backs in the league who come back from knee injuries to be back at what they were. So you trust, man, if the Broncos do a medical evaluation on him and say, hey, we think he could be a game changer, I say the Broncos, fix your running back need here through trade. That could be a really cool thing. Other name that has come up several times here is that the James Cook, who was a Pro Bowl running back for the Buffalo Bills, he is up for a new deal, and he put his house in Buffalo on the market, which is an indication to many there that he is not going to be going back to Buffalo. I thought there were some times where he was like absolutely nasty. This game here against the Dallas Cowboys, where he had more offensive yards than the entire Cowboys offense. Kind of crazy. We see him being able to catch passes there multiple times from Josh Allen. So as Sean Payton talks about wanting a joker at that position, he really is the definition of a joker. He is older, but you see the genetics there with his brother being an NFL running back as well. I think that could be great. Either way, the Broncos are going to have to go through Buffalo at some point, and I love the idea that he's not going to be returning to the Buffalo Bills. So let me know in the comments, what is your prediction for are the Broncos going to be doing with the 20th draft pick? Is there any world where we see that Ashton Jeanty is still on the board at 20? Do you think that the Raiders losing a cornerback, the Miami Dolphins losing a offensive lineman, the fact that you have Jalen Milroe and Jackson Dart now jumping up into that top 20, really, you could look at a world where Ashton Jeanty does fall to you there. The last time we had a running back picked in the top 10, we're going back all the way to Bijan Robinson, so it does not happen all that often. I think there's a really good chance he falls to us at 20. If he falls to us at 20, we pick him. That is going to be my locked-in guarantee here. But Denver Broncos country, the future is very bright. We've got a ton to believe in.